I love Aaron Ramsdale.
Large chips, please, mate.
I think he's one of the most likeable and talented players in our squad. He said he's likely to go into coaching when he finishes his career, but if he doesn't, I'd love to see him working in media. He brings a down-to-earth and funny, but sensible and not media-trained vibe to every interview he does, and as one of the most exciting young talents in his position, I hope he stays that way as his star grows. He's also said that he watches YouTube, so Aaron, if you're watching, hi mate, like and subscribe please. So with all that said, it makes it quite difficult for me to assess him objectively, and it got me thinking, is Ramsdale actually good, or do I just really like him? As fans, we probably naturally have a tendency to overrate our own club's players, or certainly struggle to properly rate them, especially when we can relate to them culturally, and our team is doing well. So, in this analysis, I'll try to be as objective as possible, and use as much data as I can. But please note that I go into this thinking that Ramsdale is one of the top 5 goalkeepers in the league, and I think probably top 10 in the entire world. The first thing to note is just how young Ramsdale is in goalkeeping terms. Have a look at this graph from Canon Stats. You'll see that Ramsdale is part of a general push over the past few years at Arsenal to get pre-peak players on good contracts and wages, who will hopefully have their peak at Arsenal. The data tell us centre-backs, centre-forwards and goalkeepers tend to peak a little later, and it's widely accepted a goalkeeper's peak is probably from around their late 20s to their early or mid 30s on average. It's vital to stress that at 24, Ramsdale isn't even close to his peak as a goalkeeper. In goalkeeping terms, he's a baby. He's 25 in May. To put that in perspective, Ramsdale is the 3rd youngest regular Premier League goalkeeper. Only Gavin Bazunu and Illan Meslier are younger in terms of goalkeepers who have played the most league minutes for their club this season. The average age of a team's first choice goalkeeper in the Premier League this season is 29.3. It's obviously not guaranteed that a player gets better over time, but it's a pretty good rule, and Ramsdale certainly has time on his side. So, let's look at his output. You have to be careful with goalkeeping stats, and I think it's partly why goalkeepers are hard to judge. A goalkeeper with tons of clean sheets doesn't necessarily make them the best, as so much of that is about the team that they're in and the defence they're behind. And the save percentage can be increased or decreased by the volume of shots faced, again, not an indictment of their goalkeeping quality necessarily. The best and most advanced metric we have at the moment to measure goalkeepers is post-shot expected goals. I'm sure you know what XG is by now, but let me explain what post-shot XG is, just in case you're unfamiliar. Take this situation here, Lanzini's last-minute goal against Spurs a few years ago. It's always nice to watch Spurs concede. Based on where the defenders are, the goalkeeper is, and the player on the ball is, it's incredibly unlikely he scores this as he goes to shoot. In fact, he has exactly a 0.01 XG on this chance. But once the ball leaves his foot, post-shot, because of the direction, pace, dip, etc. on the ball, it becomes way more likely the goal goes in. I don't have the data, but I imagine it goes to around a 0.4 or 0.5 XG chance. Therefore, it's more fair to judge a goalkeeper on their data on saves from after the shot, as once it leaves Lanzini's boot, it becomes a lot harder to save as it's such a great strike. It wouldn't be fair here to say that Lloris conceded from 0.01 XG, but I would love to. So this is a graph I made which shows how many goals Premier League keepers should have conceded this season, post-shot, against how many goals they have actually conceded. The black arrow indicates at par performance, i.e. you should have conceded 20 and you have conceded 20, for example. Keepers below the line are conceding less than the quality of the shots they're facing says they should, indicating good performance, and above the line is vice versa. I've chosen the keeper for each team with the most minutes this season. As you can see, Ramsdale is saving exactly the amount the data says that he should. 26.3 post-shot XG on the shots, 26 conceded. In terms of a goalkeeper's primary function, keep ball out of net, he's doing pretty well. In other words, in terms of his performance, he's keeping out 0.05 more shots per 90 than he should, putting him tied in 7th in the Premier League overall. Every single keeper performing above him is older by at least 3 years, and Bazunu and Meslier, the only younger regular keepers, are rock bottom. As a goalkeeper, experience matters, and Ramsdale is overperforming for his age. But that's just this league. If you'd like to see more data and in-depth analysis of how Ramsdale performs compared to the best goalkeepers around the world, as well as getting loads of other benefits, then check out the bonus content in this video on Patreon or by clicking join on the channel below. But of course, keeping the ball out of the net, while possibly the most important part of the job, isn't the only part of the job. What about Ramsdale's distribution? This data is from a few months ago, but still stands up, I think. Arsenal was 2nd in the league for final third entries from goal kicks. The only team above them was Brentford, with their infamous Tony knocking the ball down to Mbermo dynamic that works so well for them. So you can see, relative to the rest of the league, long goal kicks are a key part of Arsenal's play, and Ramsdale is asked to do it a lot. City tend to go shorter, as you can see, with 70% of their goal kicks going short, compared to 40% for Arsenal. And in this graphic, you can see Ramsdale elects to go left from his goal kicks more often than not, which makes sense as he's a right-footed player and it's probably more comfortable and controlled to kick across your body, and Arsenal have Xhaka in that area, who wins a lot of second balls. But that is kind of just data. Are the balls out from the back any good? Well, his pass completion percentage is not good. Ramsdale completes just 27.1% of his long balls, with only Meslier at Leeds completing fewer in the league. However, when you consider that Arsenal are bottom of the aerial duel win percentage in the league, and that Saka and Martinelli are 203rd and 208th out of 211 Premier League players for aerials won, it starts to make more sense. Arteta is much more interested in winning second balls, as that's the key, and positioning players around the guy going in for the challenge in order to do that. But really, using our eyes, we can see how good Ramsdale is on the ball. There's been a number of incredible balls out this season and last that spring to mind, including a superb ball out to Saka on the far right hand side against Palace at the weekend. That quick thinking, talent and skill doesn't come up on the data, but we know he has it in him. It's the reason he was signed, supposedly. Also, speaking more unscientifically, Ramsdale's had a number of clutch moments this season that I just can't remember him having in his game last season. In fact, I remember a few moments last season where you just feel he could have done better, like the goal near post against Jota. It feels like those moments have been slightly eliminated. This season, the save from Marcus Edwards against Sporting with his face, his save from Leon Bailey to deny Villa a route back into the game, and his save from Richarlison in the North London derby have all been highlights at crucial times of the game when it was in the balance. He was terrific at Ellen Road and won us the points. They won't be talked about in the same way as the James Maddison free kick, for example, but they all happened in really important moments. I love how quickly he gets us going, how he communicates with his back four, and the commanding presence that he's growing. He's still so young, but he's beginning to develop that aura that all the top keepers have. His chip ball out to Zinchenko is a great, consistent outball for us, and I hope that ball he plays into midfield to Ødegaard can continue to develop. Something John Harrison, head of data science at goalkeeper.com, talks about is his 1v1 intelligence, which Ramsdale is really showing consistently. One of Edison's weaknesses is his decision-making 1v1. He tends to come out a little too soon at times and invite the striker to round him. Watch Ramsdale's save against Sporting. He actually leaves Edwards for a little moment and gives him the space, though it would be tempting to rush him as he could see it coming. He slowly closes the space, staying on his toes, then makes his move and saves. Magnificent goalkeeping, and reminiscent of Alisson, though he has a long way to match Alisson's record 1v1. I think there's some question marks about Ramsdale claiming from set pieces, but I suppose the main question mark about his goalkeeping is his record on penalties. Ramsdale has never actually saved a penalty for Arsenal, having faced 9 in the league in his 2 seasons. 2 haven't gone in, but 1 was Fernandes hitting the post, and the other was Bamford shooting wide. He's gone the right way a lot of the time, and did the other night against Sporting, but never actually stopped a goal. That's not good. Obviously. I suppose the thing I'd say though is that penalties are meant to be scored. And when you look at a lot of the takers that he's faced, people like Ronaldo, Kane and Zaha, they are penalty experts who rarely miss. For comparison, Edison has conceded from 18 out of 21 penalties in his time in the league, but Alisson is much better on 7 conceded from a possible 13. Ultimately, it's a weakness and something Ramsdale could address. But if I told you that a penalty was a 0.8 xG chance, meaning there's an 80% chance it goes in, and our keeper had conceded less than 80% of the ones he faced, you might begin to see it slightly differently. Ramsdale has all of the characteristics to go on and be an extraordinary keeper in Arsenal's history. He says he'd like to be a legend here, and I can see it happening. He has the height, power, flexibility, shot stopping and distribution of a top modern keeper. Ramsdale said recently he thinks his best quality is his ability to bounce back from mistakes or adversity. Having been relegated twice, but remaining in the Premier League the following season both times, you can see why he thinks that. He says he finds training boring as nothing's on the line, and you can see how he rises to big occasions and how much he enjoys it. Ultimately, fans want to see someone that they can identify with. Ramsdale's passion, energy and love for the club is hugely engaging. His connection with the fans is deepening, and his jovial character will only further endear him to sections of the fanbase that aren't 100% on board. There's a perception issue here as well for me. English fans are still getting used to a new style of goalkeeper. Joe Hart being dropped when Pep arrived was probably the watershed moment, and that was less than 10 years ago. When or if Southgate sees sense on Ramsdale and sees how much he can add in possession, as well as performing as well as Pope and Pickford in the more traditional goalkeeping areas, I think we'll see his reputation go to a new level domestically and internationally. As I say, I love Aaron Ramsdale, and he clearly loves Arsenal and football and golf. And it just feels right, a match made in goalkeeping heaven. And when you consider that he has all of the skills to go on to become one of our greatest ever goalkeepers, it's hugely exciting indeed. Though beyond Seaman and Lehmann, there's not loads of competition. Is he actually good? I think so. But one thing's for sure, he's better than Martinez.